Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the F to the L to the double OG. That's right. It's another episode of the Fantasy League of Ordinary Gentlemen. Welcome.
The FLOOG.
Yeah, boy. What's happening? It's a two-man podcast tonight, two-man crew. It is me, Gars_Poetica. You can find us at thefloog.com. You can find us at thefloog_FF. And alongside me tonight, I got a Mr. Tyson Cullen. What's up, my man?
Living life, loving life, man. Just got back from KC.
In Buffalo?
In Buffalo. I'll try not to say too much because the commish is a Chiefs fan, and he's very respectful. A lot less obnoxious than I am, and he easily could have rubbed it in my face the last 2 years. And in fact, a couple of years ago, I wanted to watch a game with him. He said, "I don't know, dude." He goes, "One of us might have been upset," which last year I would have been upset. So, but as we were talking off camera, I had a good time. KC fans are, I'll just put it politely, passionate about their Chiefs.
That's very polite compared to what you told me earlier. So
yeah, very polite. But it lives up. But in all seriousness, it lives up to the hype. Like, it's very loud. I told you off camera, a lot of people left, and it was still very loud. And I would say, I mean, it's louder than Buffalo. I'm not going to be biased. It's louder than Buffalo, though Buffalo does get loud. I would put KC at the top of all the games I've been to. It is definitely the loudest. We're second, of course.
I think Seattle is right on top there too, ain't it?
Yeah, absolutely. But as far as like me personally going to games, I've not had the, I guess you could call it, the pleasure of going to the 12th man yet, but yeah, it's up there. But KC is definitely among the stadiums I've been to. It is the loudest, and it's in a. I mean, it's not in a very like there's not a lot of stuff around it, but I didn't feel like I was not safe. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's some stadiums you go to and you're like, all right, well, I better be careful. Like, and right. I know we have. Go ahead.
No, I was saying, I was agreeing with you.
Yeah. I mean, we got another guy on here who is a avid Baltimore Orioles fan, like I am, one Dan, and he can attest to that. If you go to an Orioles and Ravens game and you go too far from the stadiums, good luck. So,
right.
So had a great time. Drove by St. Louis, saw the Arch. I crossed off Missouri, Kansas, Kentucky, 3 states I've never been to. So I had a good week. It was a good weekend. So
we're gonna have to get to Seattle soon, man, so you can go see that 12th man.
Yeah,
in that.
Well, I've never been west of I guess you could say Kansas City, honestly, or Tech. I don't know which one's more west, Dallas or Kansas City, but those are the two most western parts of the country that I've been to. So I haven't been farther west, but trying to get out there. So,
well, to me, I don't even mentally, I don't even know the geography between the two, but I think it's more so would be Dallas would be more far west, I think.
Yeah, I would think so too.
Yeah.
Because it takes
it absolutely is, because Missouri and Kansas, yeah. Because Dallas, definitely a little further west.
It took about 16, 17 hours, and then I think that Dallas, it's definitely more than 16, 17 hours. So I haven't been as far as west as Dallas. So that's the West Coast is the next goal.
Oh yeah, man. Well, the goals you have right now of how many games have you watched this season, or went to go see? Every week yet, or just skip a week?
I skipped week 2, saw the Bills game at my parents', and then week 3 when we saw the football team, I went to go see that with the same buddy at some Hooters in Greenville, North Carolina. So I've been to 3 of the 5 weeks I've gone to see a game, and going to see another one Sunday when Washington KC. So I get to go to a place where, all right, I'll just be arrogant and say I get to go to a place where my team beat both the teams there. But,
Nice.
But you know what though, both teams gave me a hard time at one point this season. So you know what, that's all I gotta say.
Exactly. I'm surprised the commission ain't going with you this time, man. He hasn't.
I'm trying to, man. I've been trying to get him to go, but you know, he's a
stubborn.
busy man.
He's busy, but he's a stubborn man as well. Well, you can find Ty at is it at social media? No, you are social media ghost on Twitter, but at 757
Bills Mafia.
Exactly. Yep. But cool, man. Like, what you drinking on water tonight?
Yeah, just aqua.
It's a universal solvent, man. Cool.
But my problem is I don't drink alcohol, but I drink a lot of soda. So that's my problem, is that I can stay away from alcohol. I can't stay away from soda. Yeah. What about you? What are you drinking?
I got this Let's Be Homies hazy IPA. That's a mix. I mean, it's made by both Stone Brewery and Deschutes Brewery. So I think they just collaborated for this tasty.
Let me see.
Yeah.
Wait, let's see what you got there. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, I've seen that before. Okay.
Yeah, the can's a little crushed, but I mean, yeah. I mean, it's not bad.
Yeah.
A little honeycomb taste in a way on the finish, but I can do that.
That's what's up. What's been going on with you? It's been a pretty big week so far this week.
It has been a crazy week for me, man. Like, I actually started a new job, and I am selling this thing. It's called like a plant-based energy drink, which has got a lot of kava and kratom in it, which is a good euphoric thing. I'm really interested in selling it, man. It's like a pain reliever, stress reliever, anxiety relief, all when you get an energy boost as well. It's like 5-hour energy without all the bullshit sugar, basically. Well, actually, it's like 20 times better than 5-hour energy, I'd say. But it's fun. I enjoy it. I get to go to cool CBD vape shops and marijuana shops at times too, and just sell the hell out of this thing. So it's cool. Yeah, I enjoy it. So I'm glad I started this job. Started this week. So far, so good. And yeah, just coasting through that now.
And you're going out, and you went out of the 804 today, right? You went to Fredericksburg.
Yeah, so I'm like 804. I'm like Richmond all the way to DC. So I got a lot to cover. And man, I mean, this is what I do. I type in tobacco shops in my phone, see who's around. I'll go hit that, and I'll hit anything in between. So that, like a 7-Eleven, I'll go to another shop. I mean, you'd be surprised how many tobacco shops, how many vape shops, how many CBD shops, how much, I mean, Mary Jane shops there are out there. So it's an interesting world, man. And I'm just trying to reap the benefits of what I can in it. So.
And for those that don't know, how far is Fredericksburg to Richmond, or how far is DC to Richmond for those?
Oh, so
those listeners that might not know.
So since I am based out of Richmond, man, it's like about 45 minutes to an hour to Fredericksburg, and you got a couple hours to like Alexandria, where I'll probably be out at. And it's fun. I mean, the driving, I don't mind. I like being on the road. I like, you know, to me, sometimes it's calming. You know.
Yep, I agree.
Have a nice long drive, so does not faze me whatsoever. And I meet cool ass people all day. I'm not micromanaged, and I can do this. Shit, I wouldn't be surprised if I did this the rest of my life. I'd be happy with
That's
it.
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, like we talked about, if you know, it didn't sound like, not to get too personal, but it didn't sound like you were 100% happy with what you were doing.
I wasn't too happy with what I did before, so this is a good transition.
So yeah, I mean, it's all about, you know, it's all about, like we talked about, it's all about, you don't want to come home and go, fuck.
Never want to go. Never want to come home like that again. Nope.
Yeah, so that's not a good look. for anybody, not just for guards. That's not a good look for anybody.
For all of us, man. I feel like, to me, what I told my son before is like, learn as much skills as you can in the job you're in, and if you like it and you're okay with the pay, stick with it. Or if you feel like you have pretty much just lost all your enthusiasm or all the skills and everything that you could have gathered from it, then move on to something bigger and better that can make you maybe a little bit more happier as well. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
you're teaching them you're teaching them a good lesson. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to do it. But let's go onward. This is a fantasy football podcast. Enough of us two here. We're coming up to week 6. We did have the Thursday night game last night as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers edged out the Philadelphia Eagles. Pretty decent game in the end. I mean, Philadelphia was coming back a bit. Jalen Hurts, a couple of scoring touchdowns of his own. Leonard Fournette blew it up. And a pretty decent game from Tom Brady as well. But what we're here to do today is focus on the top 12 of each position. Give a good rundown as to what we can see, or maybe some dark horses, or maybe a primary guy that's right outside of the top 12 who can edge his way into the top 12 of each position. And I think this will be fun, man. It'll be interesting because we usually just do recaps, or we just do like some small forecasts. But this is going to be interesting. Basically, just see who can be on the spectrum of, players that, can come out of nowhere. Because we've had that happen. Like, for instance, tight end, we'll talk on later, like Dawson Knox, the Dalton Schultz of the world kind of deal. So, So what do you say? We kick it off with quarterbacks?
Let's do it.
Cool. So let's just start off, with the man himself, who already won last night. And that's Mr. Tom Brady, who's at the top so far. What he did so far this season, we're gonna edge it. We're gonna talk about last night's game too. He's already at 2,000 yards, and he's producing. He's producing good numbers for his top 3 wide receivers, and Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, and Antonio Brown too.
Yep.
What do you see out of Tom Brady? Do you think he's going to keep that number 1 position? Do you think? I think he'll easily, without a doubt, get anywhere between 5,000 to 5,500 yards for the season.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of great young quarterbacks like Herbert, and you got Murray playing well. You got Jackson playing well. Dare I say Josh Allen playing well. And even like you got like Prescott, who doesn't get the credit that he deserves, or Matt Stafford. But yeah, I think Brady, I'm with you. I think Brady gets, I'd say 5,100 to 5,500. And I think he'll lead the NFL in passing yards. I'm a big passing yards. I'm big all around, like rushing yards and all that and whatnot, but I'm big on passing yards. And I think he'll lead the league in passing yards. And I think he'll lead the league in passing touchdowns. So,
absolutely.
I know a lot of people are big on the rushing too, but I got him as my number 1. And I think a lot of people do too. But either way, nothing to take away from Lamar Jackson. I know, and that Stan's guy, I know, and Lamar is having a great year, but Brady's my number 1 right now. It's
showing, man. It's incredible. Like, it's just it's a rushing and throwing game when it comes to your quarterback. Is he mobile? And that's one thing we always thought about, like, for our top tier QBs as well. You got Mahomes. The top rusher in quarterbacks right now is Lamar, and he is as of right now. And Hurts is number 7 right now. He will be edging number 2 after last night, but we still have the other guys to obviously play this Sunday and Monday.
Yeah.
But with Hurts and Lamar, those two being the top rushers in the QB position, they're right there at number 4 and 7, and that's something that we're going to have to look into too. Like, 3 out of the 6 of the top 12 rushers for the QB position are in the top 4. minus
Yeah.
Tom Brady.
Yeah.
So,
and I was going to say in that regard, I mean, Brady's definitely proven that you don't have to be mobile, but, you know, you also have to have, what do you want to call it? The intelligence of Brady. You got to have the instincts of Brady. I mean, Brady, you still can step up in the pocket and still deliver a ball downfield. It's not like he's, you know, in shotgun formation and then just stands there and just flings it. I mean, he does step up into the pocket. He does move around in the pocket. Like I say, he's not going to run for a 20-yard run or something, but you still got to be able to move inside the pocket and avoid the pass rush. I mean, so this, you know, like I said, you can be not mobile, but know that when a defender is basically about to sack you and whatnot. But and also that it seems like who was it? Joe Buck said it seems like he's having the most fun. Of course, when you're throwing a Mike Evans, when you're throwing Antonio Brown, throwing a Chris Godwin, you throwing a OJ Howard and Cameron Brate. I mean, we'd agreed that OJ Howard looks slow, but he's still a good player. I mean, they got three really good tight ends on a team where all three of them could be starters.
Exactly.
And then not to mention that Leonard Fournette had, I think, 4 catches for like 43 yards or something like that. He's catching the ball out of the backfield.
And he's becoming the primary guy for the running back position for that team. We're not used to that with Tampa Bay.
No. Well, you're not used to that when Brady's your quarterback.
True. Yeah.
You know, look at all those years in New England. I mean, how many number one backs? How many true number one backs did he really have? Especially when James White came in. Especially when James White came in onto the team. I mean, how many times was, you know, yeah. So, but and not only that, it seems like him and Byron Leftwich got a great relationship, and it sounds like Byron Leftwich, who, if people don't know, is his offense coordinator, and they're about the same age, which is kind of funny in my opinion. But you know, Byron Leftwich at some point will probably become a head coach. So there's a lot. So, you know, again, you don't have to be mobile to be a great quarterback. Obviously, the game is going towards mobile quarterbacks, but Brady's the last of the,
Mohicans.
stand in the pocket. Was that?
He said the last of the Mohicans. He's the
Mohicans. Yeah, no, actually, I'm thinking that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, long-winded answer. I think, he leads the league in yards, and I think he ends up leading the league in passing touchdowns.
Exactly. Like, plus he's leading the league in pass attempts. So he's already at 267 after last night. Last night he threw 42 times, and man, he's reaping the benefits. 1,054 air yards as well, with 69% completion percentage.
Wow.
Onwards to we do have Mahomes in second, at Josh Allen in third, Lamar right now in fourth, and Justin Herbert in fifth. Out of these guys in the top 5, do you see Kyler Murray or somebody like Hurts, Prescott, any of those guys pushing either one of these top 5 out?
Yes, but it's not going to be because I think Justin Herbert's a real deal. Mm-hmm. Another one that has a little bit of mobility, but he's not going to run for 500 yards, say like Murray or Mahomes, or again, dare I say, my guy Josh Allen. He's not going to run for 500 yards, but he can throw he can make any throw.
Right.
And I'll never forget earlier where my stepdad's like, man, there's a lot of hype on this Justin Herbert. I don't see like all of the hype. I'm like, are you serious right now? Like, he was amazing. Yeah. I was like, he was amazing. He was great as a rookie. And he's battling Mahomes for that top dog in that AFC West. I mean, make no mistake about it. Herbert is coming. And right now they got a 2-game lead on the Chiefs. But I think, again, if I think Prescott or Stafford or Murray edge out either one of those guys. It's not because Allen or Mahomes or Herbert or Jackson fall off. It's just that Murray and Stafford and Prescott play better. I think.
Right.
I mean, you look at that top 8. I mean, I know you had Hurts at 7, but again, Brady, Mahomes, Allen, Jackson, Herbert, Murray, Stafford, Prescott. Like someone said, I heard this on imagine this, a Bills podcast, but
I didn't know you listened to them.
But look at what the playoffs could be, and look how loaded that quarterback playoff room could look. Mm-hmm. I mean, you could also have a really dark horse in Baker Mayfield in the playoffs. I'm trying to think who else is in, but yeah, I mean, the AFC, the playoffs could be right now. It would be Herbert, Jackson, Josh Allen,
well, not
Ryan Tannehill.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Ryan Tannehill. I'm trying to think who else. Derek Carr. I mean, that's a loaded AFC quarterback room. So, man, it's gonna be tough for Murray, Stafford, Prescott, because all the other guys are playing great right now.
Yeah. And when you got a loaded roster and offensive side of the ball for just about all of them, I mean, it definitely helps out.
Let me say one more. I was just going to say one more thing. And as I know we're going to get into it, but looking at the rest of the field, but I think the top 8 right now, because especially with Russell Wilson about to go on IR, I think the top 8 will stand out, though, among quarterbacks. I think Brady, Hurts, Mahomes, Allen, Jackson, Herbert, Murray, Stafford, Prescott. I think that will be, I believe that's 8. I don't know how many I counted. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, maybe 9. Okay, I'm sorry, 9. I think that 9 will stay the same. I will say that. I was just going to say, I think that will stay the top 9. It might fluctuate, but I think that will be the top 9. It's the top. I think it's the top 9 now, and I think it will be the top 9 at the end of the season, because I think, at least for me, Wilson was 10. Of course, he'll drop because he's on an IR, and then Darnold and Daniel Jones. I don't see either one of them as much as they're playing well. I know we're going to get to them, but as much as they're playing well, I don't think they're in that top 9 echelon yet. Exactly. At least can sustain it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and that's a great point, because we can have somebody like Aaron Rodgers who can pretty much push them to the brink when it comes to these fantasy. It comes to the fantasy aspect of everything, and I think you're right. Like, I mean, with Darnold, I think he can get pushed back just a little bit, just because he's had such a big rushing upside for touchdowns. That definitely skyrocketed his capability and his starting power. I mean, we weren't thinking about starting somebody like Sam Darnold or Daniel Jones at all at the beginning of the season. But right now, they've proved us wrong quite a bit. I mean, both of them did have quite a decent aspect in the rushing game, which helped benefit them greatly. Yeah. Both not too bad of weapons either. I mean, with the emergence of, say, Kadarius Toney in New York, and even the way that somebody like DJ Moore is playing out there in Carolina. I mean, it's just it's lights out. Both of them are looking good. For fantasy. So we did say we're going to have somebody like primary who could push any of these guys out of the top 12. We did talk about Aaron Rodgers. Obviously the GOAT. He's very capable of putting up Brady-esque numbers. One thing I noticed, Ty, is like one of his biggest contributors last year was Robert Tonyan. And his numbers this year are not anything. No. Starter.
No. Yep. I was just going to say, I got him. So those that don't know, I'm in like 5 leagues. I got him in, I believe, 3 of them, and I dropped them all. I think one of my buddies got him, and he probably made a comment like, "Oh, you dropped Tonyan." I'm like, dude, 60 yards in 4 games does not impress me. All right, I'm sorry. That doesn't impress me. Not even when you got like Hayden Hurst, who's supposedly the backup, already has 100 yards, or Pat Freiermuth of Pittsburgh has 100 yards. And all the talent they got. I know they just lost Juju, but they still got Deonte, Claypool, James Washington, and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, I think Tunyon's got 82 yards if I'm not mistaken. So that doesn't impress me much, you know.
Right.
I also have Uzama on my team. He's got more yards than him. Arnold's got more. Trying to think, I think even Ricky Seals-Jones, who's now the starting tight end for Washington, has like 3 yards less, and he just started the other day. So yeah, Robert Tonyan has been one of the biggest disappointments as far as tight ends, maybe even among all players, but definitely among tight ends.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's not like he hasn't been on the field too. I mean, he's been anywhere between 50 to about 70-75% snap share each game. So
wow.
That's quite a bit of a drop off, man, from somebody we were really highly touting last year, and he was really coming into his game. So we do have Aaron Rodgers there as one of our primary guy who could pretty much push into this top 12. Yeah. I mean, his games right now, he's going against Chicago this week. Definitely should put up some numbers against them, especially if Justin Fields keeps playing the way he has been and turning the ball over and whatnot. We also know that the running game could be suspect. We don't know with Chicago. Khalil Herbert will be the starting running back for this week, which will be interesting. But so it'll be them, then Washington, Arizona. That could be a nice shootout. Then Kansas City should be another shootout, and Seattle. I think we're going to see big things from Aaron Rodgers in the next few weeks.
Especially next week against Washington. I'm sorry, Washington fans. I don't mean to be a jerk. I know there's probably a lot of listening, but next week, Aaron Rodgers ought to may even go off for 400. I don't know, but he'll definitely go for 300. But Aaron Rodgers is coming back. That first game was just a fluke, and they always say, or at least I heard it from Kyle Brandt from NFL Good Morning. Week 1 doesn't matter. It's week 2 and week 3. Then you start going, okay, maybe I see something here. You know?
Exactly.
So
it's usually, to me, like the first, especially in fantasy, don't overwhelm yourself within the first 2 to 3 games. Yeah. But it's usually right after like the first 4 to 5 is when you start to see who actually is going to be the legit top contenders or top fantasy players throughout. And I mean, the game changes at all times. So I mean,
unless you start out 0-3, then you might want to panic.
Well, or you're on 5, like me in a couple of leagues out of 12. So I mean, it's just it's whatever. I mean, I won't pay attention to those for the rest of the year, and go on the bigger, better things in the others leagues. But we did talk about Aaron Rodgers being our primary guy to pretty much push into here. So let's go to our other one, who was, I think, number 13 on the year last year, and that's Derek Carr. Yeah. So Derek Carr is actually, like me and you talked about, second in passing yards, right behind Tom Brady. Brady definitely has the edge with that extra game, who's at 2,000 yards, but Derek Carr right now is at 1,605 passing yards and 8 passing TDs. And what I was thinking too, I mean, 8 TD passing touchdowns this year is not great in 5 games, but it's something that can be inflated within the coming weeks too. You got his wide receivers that are pretty much starting to stand out, and Brian Edwards and why am I forgetting his name?
Hunter Renfrow and Henry Ruggs.
Yep, exactly.
Hunter Renfrow's playing really good right now.
He's playing actually really well. Yeah, and that's definitely going to benefit Derek Carr, and also too, we cannot forget Darren Waller, who's pretty much top 5 in tight ends as of right now. So
I gotta say though, besides the first week, Darren Waller's kind of struggled. I don't think we've seen the Darren Waller that we know that we all can. That we haven't seen the Darren Waller that we saw last year. Besides that first game. He had a hell of a first game, of course. People are starting to throw the ball on Baltimore, as we can tell from the other night with your boy Carson Wentz. I don't think we've seen the Darren Waller of last year yet. I think it's coming though. And
that's perfect. Let's look that up. I mean, right now, the first game, like you said, against Baltimore, 19 targets.
Jesus Christ.
That's insane.
I didn't know that.
But I mean, the first, and then there's the rest of this game's 7 targets and 8 in his last game. So let's look up last year, though. He was averaging, especially at the end of the season, let's say week 13, 17 targets, 10 targets, 12, 6 to 10. I mean, there was only at least 1, 2, 3. Half of his games that season were less than 10 targets.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's something. I mean, we all know if you're getting targeted, you're going to have at least a good fantasy output.
Right.
So that's something too. I mean, with these wide receivers that we were just talking about, they are pretty much taking away from what he was getting last year.
Right.
So.
And I will say this, and it kind of helps too. Of course, people will be looking for the pass, but the running game hasn't been that good this year.
Right.
Jacob missed the first, or not missed the first 2. Jacob missed 2 games. And Kenyon Drake has not looked good, which I don't know. I was never a big fan, but I know a lot of people were. But like even Peyton Barber, who Washington got rid of, has looked better than Peyton Barber. But Jacobs' numbers, it's been where you said.
Oh, you said Peyton Barber looked better than Peyton Barber, but I think you meant looked better than Drake. Good, you're good.
Yeah,
good.
Okay, my bad. Yeah. But yeah, Peyton Barber's looked better than Drake, and Jacobs' numbers has been inflated by, I think the first game he only averaged like 3.2 yards per carry, but he had 2 touchdowns. So he had like 48 yards, and if it weren't for those 2 touchdowns, he wouldn't have done squat. So
exactly. the
running game hasn't been good. So that only increases the number of pass attempts that Derek's going to be taking.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. Not to mention the fact that John Gruden and his fiasco too. I mean, this is going to be a whole new ball game, man, especially with the new offensive coordinator being the new interim head coach. So maybe this is something like the team rallies behind, because like, I mean, they, in a way, when you see like something, I'm not to say that John Gruden was a disease or anything to the team, but to see that something like somebody that they had, that you had no idea was like that behind the scenes, and then that he's rooted out, maybe that somewhat brings the locker room together as a whole to maybe escalate themselves even further. It's like, okay, we got somebody who we thought was a great mentor who turned out to be, completely different than what we thought. And maybe, maybe this unifies the team in a different way. So that would be interesting to see. And of course, they got Denver this week. So a good division rival. So that'd be a fun game to watch.
Yeah. I'll just say about the Gruden thing, and I won't go any further, but I'll just say that, something needed to be done because it was going to be a problem. Mm-hmm. Eventually, maybe not this week, maybe not next week, but eventually it's going to be a problem. And they got a good team. They actually have a pretty good team. Their defense has been playing better than they did last year, because their defense was horrendous last year.
Right.
So, like I said, something needed to be done, but they actually have a good team.
Derek Carr has been looking great, man, going back to him. Like, I mean, and we're looking at a guy who in 2020 threw 27 touchdowns. So that's not out of the realm that he can get there, or maybe even exceed that. So hopefully with the wide receivers, I was going to say wide receivers making headway this year too, instead of it just being Darren Waller. This could be something where we're going to see. I mean, it sucks because, I mean, just like who was it? George Kittle, who's pretty much fallen. We do see Waller falling. We're seeing some new guys into the top 5 for tight ends. And it just seems like it's just the only one capitalizing for this team in general is Derek Carr in a way. Yeah.
And they got, and like I said, that 3 wide receiver set they got between Renfro, Edwards, and Ruggs. I mean, you could see that tandem for a couple of years, and it could be a really good tandem. I mean, you got Ruggs, who's the burner. You got Edwards, who's kind of a tall, big body guy, and then you got Renfro, who kind of runs those kind of the Cooper Kupp kind of
short to intermediate, routes. Yep.
Correct. So I mean, it's not a bad, and the Raiders have had some bad receiving corps over Derek Carr's time, and this could be
when he was at his greatest, right?
When he was dropping passes.
Exactly. We're not even trying.
We're not even trying, exactly. But so I mean, this could be one of the better receiving corps by the end of the season, if not already. So
exactly. Other than that, do you want to talk about anybody else in this top 12 or who you might think? I know we talked about Darnold, Daniel Jones out, and pretty much Russell Wilson, since he'll be out for a few games as it is.
Yeah. Russell. I mean, Russell's going to be out of the top 12, and which is a shame because he's playing some pretty good football, but you're going to miss 3 games. He's going to end up not finishing in the top 12. I agree. Darnold and Jones have looked really good, especially, I'm gonna say Jones a little more surprising because I think you're onto something with the Adam Gase theory. I don't even know if it's a theory at this point. I think it's just a proven fact. But Daniel Jones, I mean, what was it? Last year he fumbled 18 times or something like that. He doesn't throw picks. He just can't hang on to the ball. And I think he's only turned it over twice, I think, this year, if I'm not mistaken. Right. So, and he had a nice little rapport the first 3 weeks with Shepard. Then Shepard got hurt, but then I just seen that Shepard's going to play this week. Like you said, Tony had a great game last week before he decided to punch one of the Cowboys. Yeah. So he's done well considering, injury, Barkley's been hurt, Galladay's been hurt. I mean, at one point, last week, you had Jones, Galladay, Barkley, Shepard,
Slayton,
and who's the other receiver? Darius Slayton, thank you. And then Tony gets suspended or Tony gets ejected. So that's 7 of your freaking offensive players out. So, I mean, I think Daniel Jones has taken that, I don't want to say next step, but he's taken some kind of step in the right direction because, I mean, this is his 3rd year. And I don't care what you say or what anybody says. If you haven't gotten it by that 3rd year as a quarterback, you may not get it. You may not get it.
And he's pretty much making it what he can. I mean, that offensive line is not incredible either. So, I mean, the rushing yards that we're seeing out of him, what is it, 197, almost 200 yards rushing in 5 games. So he's pretty much rushing at least 40 yards a game.
Is he number 2, I think, among quarterbacks, if I'm not mistaken?
For rushing, he's number 3, actually.
Oh, Hurts. I forgot about Hurts.
Yep, Hurts.
Yeah, that's right. So, I mean.
Just in front of your boy, Josh Allen, at number 5.
That's all right.
Or number 4.
I'm okay with that. But no, I mean, Daniel Jones is always
surprised you didn't ran on that one.
No, I'm okay. Look, Josh Allen hurdled some dude. That's all I gotta say. Let somebody else try to do that. No, Daniel Jones has always had the mobility, aka last year against Philadelphia when the sniper got him, or the grass sniper got him. But
grassy knoll.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but so he's taking a step, and then like I said, you've been saying it for the longest time about Tannehill and Darnold that they need to get away from Adam Gase, and like you said, you got Robbie Anderson, you got DJ Moore. We'll see what happens if he can build a rapport with Tommy Tremble. I think the tight end Ian Thomas had a few catches last week, which is big for him. McCaffrey's not going to play again, but Hubbard's a good player. Chuba Hubbard, which is a great name, by the way. But Hubbard's a good player. Terrence Marshall has had a couple of good games too. So I mean, I think he's in the best system. And Joe Brady is a younger mind. I think he's like 32 years old, if I'm not mistaken. So I mean, he can relate. So I think Sam Darnold's in the right environment. Do I think like I said, I agree, but I don't think he stays in the top 12 like Daniel Jones. But that's nothing against him. I just think that at some point they'll regress and they'll have a couple of bad games. Because Sam Darnold did have a bad game last week against your boys. He threw 3 interceptions, so he's going to have a game or two like that. But he's both those guys have taken a step in the right direction this year.
Yeah, definitely. It's an interesting year. I mean, especially with those two progressing like we said we haven't seen or we didn't expect whatsoever. A lot of unexpected expectations.
Yeah,
this season. So
right, absolutely.
What is the saying? Gotta expect the unexpected in ways.
Yep, exactly.
But let's move on over to running backs, and this is also a pretty interesting top 12 we got right here too. But I mean, we will say that Derrick Henry, obviously number one. No fans and buts. The thing I've seen in Derrick Henry, which actually was very interesting to me, it might only be 15 targets in the season, but that's a lot for Derrick Henry.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think last year, if I find that real quick. Last year, he just had 31 in total. He's already halfway there in just 5 games.
Wow.
So I think maybe they're trusting him in some ways. And maybe, when you got a big rusher like this, and you know that you're going to put in somebody for the third down role, obviously they know they're going to pass. So, I mean, I think that could be like a small inkling there that they're going to keep him in there for that role in some ways. Maybe not the third down role, but first and second down instead of running, there's a good possibility they can pass it as well. So I think that's interesting. It could be the fact that too, AJ Brown and Julio Jones have both been out, so they need that extra target or somebody to throw to. But he's still king, even though the team has been pretty much dismantled, skill player wise for the offense.
I'm sorry, but I said it like after Julio and AJ, what do you have at receiver?
Mm-hmm.
You got Chester Rodgers and Nick Westbrook. He's got a hyphen last name. I can't think of it. It's Irvine or something like that. But, Josh Reynolds has been a dud so far, although I think he might have been hurt one of the games. But
he's been
Josh Reynolds
too, I think, a bit.
I think he lost some snaps to Marcus Johnson, who I think they just signed very recent. So, I mean, Josh Reynolds has been a dud. Like I said,
playing some no names wide receivers for sure.
Yeah, and like I said, and everybody was big on this 3-headed monster. But my biggest thing was not to be the negative Nancy. Was what if one of them gets hurt, or as in the case again, prior to the Jets game, both of them were out, and they end up losing.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, Derrick Henry's number one to me. And again, people are always going to be, well, like you say, he doesn't get the targets. He doesn't catch the football. Okay. 640 yards in the first 5 games. Child, please. I don't care. He's the best. He's the best.
Yeah.
He's the best. It's not even close.
Going forward for this week, though, it looks like Julio Jones and AJ Brown are good to go. I think they practiced in full today. Let's go to Austin Eckler at number 2, man. He has been legit lights out.
Yeah.
Averaging at least probably about 20 to 22 points a game.
Mm-hmm.
It's not so much just his rushing attempts. It's also his targets that he's getting too that we've always thought it would bring his fantasy output out. And he's on 25 targets in the season. He didn't get targeted in the first game, which is odd. But all throughout, Herbert is definitely connecting with him for sure.
Yeah. But I will say this, though. I think he's getting better as a runner, though. I will say that. I think they're starting to run him inside between the guards and the tackles. I think he is becoming a better runner, all around runner. So, he just Brandon Staley and whoever their offensive coordinator is, it's getting to me. But yeah, they're doing a great job of getting Eckler more involved than maybe they involved him last year. And he's always and if you look at the workouts, I mean, he definitely has the work ethic. I mean, he puts in the time. Like the one video of basically he's squatting his girlfriend and then like has like the bar and then like it might even been like 200 pounds, but he was like squatting his girlfriend and like 200 pounds. Like it's just ridiculous. So
I mean, you ain't powerful unless you're squatting your girl and some action. That's for them.
Hell yeah. But yeah, no, he's definitely because I'm not impressed with any of their back. Again, that's another one of the teams that what if he gets hurt? Then you're rolling out Joshua Kelly or Larry Roundtree or Justin Jackson. So I mean, obviously if they lose Keenan Allen or Mike Williams, that hurts, but he might be that guy he might be the one player that you don't want to lose as far as the skill sets go.
Exactly.
But,
well put. So one guy we had that was not on the fantasy radar in the beginning of the season. That's Cordarrelle Patterson. Especially with the fact that, I mean, he didn't really have too many rushing attempts until last week.
Yeah.
He was pretty much splitting with Mike Davis all throughout. But
yeah.
Like we said with Austin Eckler, it's those receiving targets that he's getting as well.
Right.
God, I'm sorry. Could be the fact that Calvin Ridley is not around, but he already has 31 targets in the season, which is incredible.
Had 3 touchdown catches the game against Washington.
He's on pace to have 100 targets, dude. That's insane.
I've always liked Cordarrelle Patterson, although maybe I'm biased because I met him personally. But I've always thought he was a great athlete. But nobody besides Minnesota, nobody's really used him in this type of role. So I mean, like you said, Ridley's out. I mean, look at the receivers. You got Russell Gage has been out. So you're working with Olamide Zacchaeus. And last week was the coming out party to Kyle Pitts. And I think Hayden Hurst had a pretty good game too. But yeah, I mean, they need someone. They need an X factor like Cordarrelle Patterson to step up because, like I said, your top 2 receivers that you thought – because Russell Gage had a really good season last year. Despite not even being the number 2. Of course, Julio was hurt for most of the year. But, yeah, you need that X factor. And although Atlanta's only, I think, 2-3, but I think a lot of Atlanta fans would be happy about 2-3 right now.
Especially with the way that some games that they've been playing, they did not look too good. So the fact that they're able to at least edge out to be 2-3, just below 500, amazes me.
And their defense is terrible, which it's been terrible since that Super Bowl hangover. But yeah, I mean, Cordarrelle Patterson is that X factor, and I'm glad. And like I said, I'm glad he's getting his due because besides Minnesota, I mentioned he hasn't really been used. He's been with a few teams, and nobody's really used him. You're seeing the full potential right now. Does it last? He's number 3. Does it last? Probably not. But I mean, it's still something to talk about, considering that he's not a traditional running back. But he's looked better than Mike Davis. A lot of people are big on Mike Davis. I'm not big on Mike Davis. I don't know. Like, I thought he had that one good year in Seattle, and then Chicago was meh. Carolina, because of the fact that he replaced Christian McCaffrey, he had a decent season, but he still averaged under 4 yards per carry, and he's averaging, I think, under 4 yards per carry right now. So,
right. And I always thought Mike Davis to be like a high-end running back 3 going into the season because there wasn't too much depth for this team at all either.
No.
Cordarrelle Patterson, I mean, you did see his spurts of him like when he was in New England. It seemed like New England knew how to use him pretty well too. When they needed
but nothing like this though.
No, absolutely. No. He had like maybe a spurt or 2 last season where he was able to do that.
Yep.
Yeah, last season he had 3 games over 10 in double digits. And 2 of those games he had at least 10 and 12 rushing attempts. So when he puts up the numbers, man, when he gets the opportunity, he definitely executes pretty damn well.
Oh, he's electric. And if he's got open field, open blade of grass, forget about it.
Yeah. And we get next, we got number 4 at Zeke. I mean, Zeke, besides that first game, it's been electric the rest of the season, which is great. Even with Tony Pollard, who I think is running back 15. So Zeke's been pretty good. Kareem Hunt is definitely one who's number 6 right now, who has been taking the reins, obviously, when Nick Chubb is gone, but he's actually just killing it in the receiving aspect and getting double-digit rushing attempts as well. I think last year he had quite a bit of rushing attempts as well. It's just this offense from Cleveland. It's definitely the ground game. It's definitely the play action, which gets the wide receivers involved, and the 3 tight ends, whoever it may be, the case may be for that team. But it's good to see Kareem Hunt. I mean, I think after this season, he is a free agent. So it's going to be interesting if and where he might go afterwards. And
he's not old. I mean, he's 26, I believe, 27, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he's 26.
So 26. So, and I think he was out for that 1 year because of suspension. So it's not like there's a lot of tread. There's definitely some tread on it, but there's not a lot of there's not tread compared to, say, the Zeke's of the world. Because I think Zeke's 26. Derrick Henry, obviously 27. There's a lot on that. Of course, that tread might never end. But it's worth mentioning that this week, if you have Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb ain't playing.
Absolutely.
And Kareem Hunt is questionable, but at least he got on the practice field today. He didn't get on the practice field Wednesday and Thursday, but he got on today. So it's worth noting that he's going to be the guy. And I don't know if they'll use
Richard Felton or Dearness
Johnson. Yeah. Who both have flashed. I mean, Dearness Johnson's actually flashed in the past 2 years. He's actually when he's gotten the opportunity, he's actually ran the ball well. And then Demetric Felton's only been used as a pass catcher so far. But if you have Kareem Hunt, you got to be licking your chops this week if you're a Kareem Hunt fantasy owner.
Absolutely. And this whole season, by the way, I mean, as a top 6 running back, you'll take that all day, especially if you've been drafting him in maybe the 6th, maybe 7th round sometimes. Maybe, well, 5th to 7th probably. But reaping the benefits of that is incredible.
Yeah.
Number 6, we got Naji Harris. Been interesting because this team has been interesting, especially with the way that Ben Roethlisberger has been playing.
Yeah.
Like Naji, I'm sorry, I'm going to check something with that.
Well, I'll just say, I mean, up until last week, it felt like Big Ben was checking down to Najee. And the first couple of games he had, I haven't really seen his rushing stats, but I know the first couple of games, they didn't really run well. But I think I forget which game he had, but he had 14 catches, 109 yards one game. So Big Ben was checking it down. Of course, last week you had Deonte go off. You had Deonte had the big touchdown catch, 72 yards and a touchdown. Then Claypool had, I think it was like 130 yards and a touchdown. But it seems like Big Ben's been kind of checking down the first couple games to Najee, and he's another dude that he gets open space. That's a big kid. It's a big kid, not a big boy. That's a big kid because he's still like 21, 22 years old. That's baby Derrick Henry, maybe.
Exactly.
Dare I say?
Yeah, he's a big kid.
And you gotta remember, Derrick Henry, going back, not to make this Derrick Henry show, especially because he plays the Bills Monday. But you gotta remember, Derrick Henry had the first couple of years were good, but he didn't come into his own until 2 or 3 years ago. So Najee Harris might struggle this season, but if you're a Pittsburgh fan, don't give up. Don't just give up, because we've seen Derrick Henry only get better every year. and they have the same body type. So, and plus Pittsburgh's offensive line, not the greatest when it comes to run blocking. Let's be honest.
No, absolutely not.
But he's getting the targets and getting the catches, which is helping him out.
Yeah, almost 40 targets so far. So that's what you want out of your running back for sure.
Exactly.
Plus, being a team where I think Ben Roethlisberger has already thrown almost 200 times too. So that's definitely good.
And they lost Juju. So basically they're down to Deonte, Chase, James Washington. I think they're probably going to throw in Ray McLeod, but he's more of a kick returner, punt returner. Mm-hmm. You know, Freiermuth. I think Freiermuth will get better. Ebron, I don't know where the hell Eric Ebron went, other than he's on my fantasy football bench for some reason. Yeah, I think
off, dude. Like he's been 2 targets the past 2 to 3 games.
Yeah, I have a feeling that it's in our Chuba league. I just have a feeling that somebody crazy enough will get him, or I'll get rid of him and he'll have that one game where he has a Njoku like game like last week.
Right. Well, I mean, that makes sense because in a league like that for one of our leagues, like I mean, if you drop somebody, you need to pick somebody up in that waiver wires. It's pretty much a desert right now.
Exactly. So I think Naji Harris will get better. He was honestly, I was hoping the Bills would get him before because there was rumors of us getting Etienne. I like Naji Harris better. Yeah. That big body back that obviously can do everything. He can catch the football, run you over, run by you. Hell, he hurdles people. He hurdled Notre Dame guy. So, but yeah, enough about that though.
Well, let's move it on here. Like Alvin Kamara at 7, Chubb 8. He is expected to be out this week. Aaron Jones still top 10 as well. I mean, I feel like he's going to be top 5 by the end of the season.
Yeah.
James Robinson, it's good to see him in the top 10. I feel like Jacksonville is finally utilizing him the way that they have to. And that's pretty much just letting that man eat. Because last year he didn't put up the most yards per carry, but what he did do was have the attempts. And I think the attempts that he's getting right now is definitely a lot better than in the beginning of the season. So
and he had the targets. Mm-hmm. He had the targets last year too.
Yeah. Well, his attempts for the beginning of the season, 5, then 11, then it escalated to 15, 18, and then 18 again. So I feel like Jacksonville is now on the brink of understanding, I mean, especially with Etienne out this week or this season, that he's got to be the guy. He's got to be the guy to grind it out just like he did last year. And hopefully Trevor Lawrence and the rest of his team can figure it out in the passing game. I think he's just killing it in the rushing game. Maybe they're going to have Carlos Hyde, just give him a breather and whatnot, like every now and then. That way he can at least make it to the end of the season.
But I didn't understand the whole 5 carries first game. I get, you see a lot of teams, they'll bring in a coach and they're not on board with the previous starting running back or previous starting quarterback or previous starting wide receiver, even though they put up stats. Like Arizona's case, I have Chase Edmonds, and it feels like they want to fade out Chase Edmonds and they want to involve James Conner. And I'm more of a Chase Edmonds guy personally, maybe because I have him in 2 of my leagues, but I just think he's a better player than James Conner. But yeah, that was the first game with James Robinson. That's what I felt. I was like, this is a new coaching staff, and they obviously don't see James Robinson as a guy. And and James Robinson, I thought, had a really good season last year. Considering that he was an undrafted free agent, I thought he put up stats in the running game, and I thought he got targets. So I never understood that, well, he wasn't our guy. Even though he's a good player, he wasn't our guy. Fuck that. He's a good player, dude.
Yeah. Especially for him being undrafted too, man. And he from being undrafted and elevating yourself into like a top running back in this league is is phenomenal, man. I mean,
Exactly.
And it's good that the coaching staff, especially, is putting that into fruition for him this season.
Yeah.
We'll go with Jonathan Taylor at 11, and then DeAndre Swift edging out at number 12. So me and you, we were doing, we want a primary guy that we agree on that can break into this top 12. And then we also want a dark horse. So what we kind of did is we both agreed that Darrell Henderson will be that primary guy to escalate himself into this top 12.
Yeah. Yeah. In my book, so he missed the game, but he has a 300 and I believe it was 84 yards of total offense. So he has 294 yards rushing, and he has 90 yards receiving. Okay. And had he missed that game, he'd be in the top 6 in rushing behind, I believe it was Mixon, Henry, obviously. I can't remember who the other guys were, but nonetheless, he'd be in the top 6 in rushing. And I didn't realize he was having that good of a season. And not only that, this is another one of those situations where they're trying to involve Sony Michel, but Sony Michel's only averaging 3.6 yards per carry, and Darrell Henderson's averaging 4.9. So, I mean, let's go real quick. I mean, you're looking at against the Cardinals, 14 carries, 89 yards. Last week, 17 carries, 82 yards, and a touchdown. Except for the Cardinals game, he's had a touchdown in every game. The Colts game, 13 carries, 53 yards, and a touchdown. 16 carries, 70 yards, and a touchdown against the Bears. So, I mean, he's only got 13 targets, but I mean the rushing is there, and like I said, he's averaging almost 5 yards a pop. He's definitely in my book, he's the guy going forward for the Rams, not Sony Michel. Sony Michel's a great backup, but Darrell Henderson's got to be the guy.
He's a good compliment to Darrell Henderson, I think. But
right.
That's something too. I mean, I just think his numbers are good when he's on the field. I mean, he did have a 94% snap share in game 1, then 68 before he went down for the next game against Tampa Bay, and still a 90% snap share and still 66 while having Sony here as well. So, I mean, that's really interesting. And his attempts are there. He's getting almost just about like 20 touches a game. So that's very prominent. Like we just need a little bit more on the receiving end. And I think he's really going to start edging it out in that top 12 for sure. Yeah.
and I don't know. I don't know what your feeling is, but I wouldn't say Sony Michel, if he's a better option in the passing game, it's not that much better. I wouldn't say Darrell Henderson's a way better passing option than Sony Michel, but I wouldn't say Sony Michel is a way better option than Darrell Henderson in the passing game. You know what I'm saying? So, certainly you wish more targets, but obviously, because I mean, let's face it, they're winning games. They're 4-1, which means when you're 4-1, you're winning in the fourth quarter. You're going to run, and I know teams are going to expect it, but obviously teams aren't doing nothing about it when you're averaging 4.9 yards per carry.
Right, and let's think this is a team that does a lot of smoke and mirrors in the back and the backfield as well. Like, I mean, they're going to do the motions and wide receiver screens, even wide receiver reverses. I mean, they hand the ball off to wide receivers like Robert Woods, sometimes Cup. I mean, and Jefferson. I mean, that's kind of the big thing with this scheme that they have. But
and I'll say one more thing is that a lot of teams run a screen one side, they'll run a wide receiver screen one side, and then they'll run a running back screen to the other side. And it seems to especially on that team, if they're going to throw the football, you're going to expect obviously Cup. They're going to run a screen to Cup or Woods. Obviously, most of them are going to gravitate towards that side of the field. That can open up for a guy like Michel and Henderson. I mean, like I said, if they run screens with Henderson, he'll be there because they're going to be looking to stop Cup and Robert Woods.
Absolutely.
And Tyler Higbee and Van Jefferson and whatnot. So,
yeah. Let's go to our dark horse now. And this is an interesting one because we both believe that Melvin Gordon is going to start to fade a little bit. And that's Javonte Williams.
Yep. Yeah.
So with Javonte, I think he's been putting up pretty decent numbers. I mean, it's going to be a long stretch for him to make the top 12, but he's also getting a few targets per game as well. When he started the season, 14 rushing attempts and 13 and 12. That's a lot coming right out the gates especially when you have somebody that's as prominent as Melvin Gordon is as a veteran running back. It seems like this rushing game has been stale as of late. But I'm wondering if that's something that they're going to start to transition and give one of these guys the workhorse role, which to me, I think is going to change and go strictly to
Javonte.
Because Melvin Gordon, I think he's questionable this week too with his hip.
He is questionable. And looking at last week, Melvin Gordon got one more carry than Javonte, but Javonte got 27 yards more. And Javonte got one more target than Gordon and had 16 more yards. And looking at Melvin Gordon's stats. So, I mean, obviously the first game, it was 11 carries, 101 yards and a touchdown. That's pretty good. Of course, a lot of that came on that one big touchdown run. And then against Baltimore, 9 carries, 56 yards. But you look at the other games, I mean, 13 carries, 31 yards against Jacksonville. I mean, that's 2.4 yards a carry. Then against the Jets, who actually don't have a bad run defense, but 18 carries, 60 yards. That's 3.3. And then last week, 9 carries, 34 yards, 3.8. But I'm looking at the rest of the schedule, and you want me to tell you the rest of their schedule? If for those that don't know on Sleeper, a green matchup. If matchup is green, then that's a great matchup. And then red is bad, and then orange is okay. So 12 matchups, 10 of them are in the green. The next 12. So there's an opportunity for, I mean, let's even Melvin Gordon to eat, but there's an opportunity for one of these two guys to just go off the next 12 games. And Javonte Williams, I want to go back and look. Javonte Williams' last 2 games. So the first game wasn't good. It was 14 carries, 45 yards, and then the catch for -4 yards. The third game was 12 carries, 29 yards, but he did have 3 targets, 33 yards. The last 2 games, he's only had 15 carries, but for 109 yards.
Right.
6.86 yards per carry against Baltimore. 7.6 against Pittsburgh. And then, like you said, he had 3 targets each last 2 games. He's only got one drop, 12 targets, 11 catches. So yeah, Javonte Williams is, I think his role is going to expand, especially over the last 2 games, because Pittsburgh's actually a really good run defense. Believe it or not, Pittsburgh is a really good, they can stop the run. I know they get a lot of attention getting to the quarterback, but they can stop the run. They're really good at stopping against the run. And Javonte Williams outplayed Melvin Gordon last week against a really good defense.
Yeah, and it looks to be pretty clear, like you're saying, with the schedule too, going to late into the season. That's a schedule that
it's looking juicy,
really good. But yeah,
it's looking juicy.
So, let's move it on. Yeah, let's move it on over to the wide receivers now. Pretty legit in Cooper Kupp being number 1. He's been like that for the past few weeks, man. He's been lighting it up. We got Mike Williams, who's been a superstar along with Justin Herbert. He's edged that at number 2, and of course Tyreek Hill at 3. Deebo Samuel, man. Deebo Samuel has been the guy in San Francisco. And Shanahan is making sure of it. It looks like what's his name? Brandon Ayuk is not a factor whatsoever. And it looks like Deebo Samuel is reaping the rewards for sure. We got Javonte Adams at number 5 and Marquis Brown, who's been another step in the right direction.
Yeah.
Somebody, if you drafted him in the 7th or 8th round, man, you're fucking the pig and shit right now.
Yeah. I didn't see this from Deebo, going back to Deebo Samuel. So Deebo Samuel's second in receiving yards with 548 behind Davante Adams, which is nothing to be ashamed of, let's be honest. I did not see that from Deebo Samuel. Marquise Brown, especially last week against the Colts, and the Colts defense is really good. But yeah, Marquise Brown, I'm looking at this. His worst game was 3 catches, 53 yards. And I think it might have been Morgan. Somebody said he had like 3 drops that could have been touchdowns. So he had a very uncharacteristic game. But I mean, you got 6 catches, 69 yards against the Raiders. You got 6 catches, 113 yards against Kansas City, 4 catches, 91 yards against Denver. And then last week, 9 catches, 125 yards and 2 touchdowns. Yeah, 5 touchdowns. But let's face it, and I think Dan would agree, is that Baltimore's running game has not been good this year. And of course, they lost Gus Edwards, they lost J.K. Wasn't there another running back that I'm failing to remember? Justice Hill. Thank you very much. So, which, I mean, I don't know, maybe it was just me, but I was impressed with Tyson Williams, maybe not only because he has the same first name as me, but their running game has been basically Lamar, and Lamar. And
those are 3 good guys.
but like Carson Wentz had in that game, I mean, you had 2 400 yards. I mean, would you have ever thought that 2 400 yard, both quarterbacks would have thrown for 400 yards in that game between Carson and Lamar?
Nah, man, that was a sight to see for sure.
I would never have seen that. So yeah, Marquise Brown is definitely, and it's always been there. I think Hollywood Brown, it's always been there to be that top 15, top 12, top 10 receiver. It's just it's always been a limited capability of Lamar. But I mean, you're starting to see Lamar playing back up to the MVP level, and you're seeing Hollywood Brown take more than just a step in the right direction.
Oh, hell yeah. Exactly.
I mean, and it helps to have Mark Andrews. I know we'll talk about. We'll have Mark Andrews, number 2 tight end. I mean, them two are cooking right now. So,
exactly.
Let's
turn it on over to Jamar Chase, who great season thus far for the number 6 overall. No, I'm sorry, number 4 overall. Number 5 overall. Why am I
number
this?
5. Yep.
Okay. Number 5 overall pick. Electric, man. Already, what is it?
456 yards in 5 games.
Yeah.
And did he miss a game too?
Yeah. So he's averaging about 7 targets a game. And he's averaging about No,
he didn't miss a game. Never mind.
No, that was T. Higgins.
That's right. That's right.
So he's averaging about between 4 to 5 catches a game, which is not a lot, but he's still capable of putting up points. The fact that he's had only 7 targets pretty much per game, that's saying something. If they got to get him the ball more. I mean, obviously, it's starting to trend upwards that way because the past 2 games in week 4, he had 9 targets. 10, he had 10 5, he had 10 targets. But the first 3 games is pretty suspect. And I mean, I think it's going to say something that when this man is targeted, we're going to see great numbers coming out of it.
Yeah. I mean, listen, rookie, his worst game was 2 catches, 54 yards, which against Chicago at home is a tough matchup. Let's be honest. Mm-hmm. Chicago at home, their defense can be a really tough matchup, but he's putting up some stats like another LSU Tiger did last year. You know what I'm talking about, of course, right? JJ. So I mean, you're starting to see some LSU wide receivers come out and just ball out. I mean, but yeah, he's clearly with T. Higgins being injured, he's the number one guy. It's not even close. He looks like a stud right now, which is great for him because all we heard about was that he wasn't getting separation in the preseason. He only had one catch, I believe it was like on a wide receiver screen. So, I mean, good for him. I mean, obviously, he should be doing this. It was the number 5 pick or something like that. But good for him, though, with all he's not getting separation. He doesn't look good. You know, he might need all of this. So it's good to see. It's good to see him ball out in that regard. But yeah, he looks like a stud right now.
Another big name that actually escalated from Sam Darnold is DJ Moore, who's at number 8.
Yeah.
And while we were talking, like when targets are key, this is something where DJ Moore right out the gate has already got 50 targets.
Whew. Jesus.
Yeah, that's impressive. Especially when you have somebody like Robbie Anderson, who was a huge factor for this team last year. He's pretty much, he's only got about, 29.
And played with Darnold his first 2 years.
Yep, exactly. So it seems like the rapport between DJ Moore and Sam Darnold is a big one as of right now. Compared to I think last year, was it through 5 weeks? Yeah, I mean, he's almost doubling what he did in the first 5 weeks last year, DJ Moore. I think that he had about 30 targets at this time last year, averaging 6 targets a game, whereas he's averaging 10 a game right now.
So he's basically on pace to have 170 targets.
Oh, yeah. Killing it, man.
Jesus Christ.
So trade for your DJ Moore. You might have to pay a lot, but maybe you could find a game or two where he doesn't do anything, and that's where you want to try and capitalize on that, because they're scheming it up to where DJ Moore is the man this year. Justin Jefferson still slot in as a top 10, somebody we all knew and loved it from last year, and he seems to be keeping all of us in check if we had drafted him early. So that's good. We got DK Metcalf, who's now pretty much in the top 10. I'm sorry. He's in the top 10. This could be something that we might have to edge him out. I mean, depending on how Geno Smith plays within the next few weeks, this might be something where we have to see if Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf are going to have the same, production that we all hope and love.
Yeah. Geno actually didn't look bad for being Geno Smith. Of course, he played for the Jets he played for the Jets and the Giants, who at the time were just awful. But I mean, considering what he's been through and how he's played in the past, he didn't look too bad last week. So, so we'll see.
Yep. And then you got Mike Evans at number 11 and Terry McLaurin edging out at number 12. And now let's go through with the guys we thought would be like a primary. We both kind of agreed on 2 wide receivers who could pretty much, without a doubt, hit this top 12. And then we had one dark horse. So let's start off with CeeDee Lamb being one of our primary guys.
Yeah.
Okay. So, man, I got something going on, man. Like I just keep coughing.
Well, can I intervene? Mm-hmm. I'm gonna tell you who, in my opinion, and I'm basing it off the Tampa games against Miami, against Dallas, against last week. I'm just gonna throw it out there. If there's a guy that gets taken out of the top 12, it's Mike Evans, in my opinion.
I agree.
I mean, all the guys you mentioned, obviously Hollywood Brown, he could come down at any point because they're such a running team, even though they're not running the football great. Obviously, he can come down.
Let me put this a factor in here.
Okay.
Well, I don't think their running game was that great.
Yeah.
Nick Boyle has not been involved, and he's a huge blocking tight end for that team.
That's a good point.
He's coming back this week. So that could be something that can help the rushing game.
I'd say if Dan was on, he'd probably say the same thing. So, yeah, you got me there.
Dan don't know nothing about the Ravens.
But I think, I'm definitively will say Mike Evans will drop out of the top 12. From what I saw yesterday, I think he had 2 catches, I think, yesterday. Tom Brady is going to his slot receiver, which is Antonio, and he's going to his tight ends, which was what he did for so many years at New England when he had Rob Gronkowski, when he had a person no longer with us, Aaron Hernandez, when he had Julian Edelman, when he had Wes Welker. So he's gone back to, Godwin and Evans are still involved, but from what I've seen, what I saw last night, Brown was open, Brate was open, OJ Howard was open.
Mm-hmm. So Mike Evans was taken out of the game last night, big time. And he's not entirely consistent, but when he is on his game, he's on his game. And that could be like a connection too. It can be the way the defense is playing him as well. But he's primarily an outside wide receiver. And Antonio Brown and Godwin are guys who can play both ends of the spectrum, where it's inside or whether it's outside.
Right.
Whereas Evans is pretty much going to be, outside, your deep threat in a way.
Exactly.
And he's not too much of the possession wide receiver. But obviously, it's such an up and down roller coaster. He's had great games. He's only had 2 games, both under 5 points.
Yeah.
Counting last night. But the other 4 games, well over in double digits. You can't argue his other games. Which he was touted too. But that's something like consistency is key. And if you're not consistent, there's going to be fluctuations to where you probably will not make that top 12. So I totally agree with you there.
Yep. But let's go back to your what you said about CeeDee Lamb and
So CeeDee Lamb, obviously we like the fact that Dak Prescott is on his game this year. He's looking good. He's looking healthy, and he's contributing pretty well for this whole squad. CeeDee Lamb just looks so much better. He's not a better route runner than Amari Cooper, but he just looks so much more fluid, and he's capable of creating those yards after catch too. And he's just electric, man. So when he has the ball in his hands, he's legit. But within the past 3 games, we've only seen 3 targets, 5 targets, and 6 targets. Whereas his first 2 games, he had 15 and 9. So I'm hoping that this is something that they're going to try and pivot towards getting him the ball more, just because of his yards after the catch. Only targeted 38 times. I know we talked about somebody like DJ Moore has been targeted 50 times, but if they can get his targets up and back how they were in the beginning of the season, I think he's going to be a very reliable fantasy wide receiver one.
Well, and to this point, not to take away, and I know we'll talk about him, but not to take away from Dalton Schultz, but look what Dalton Schultz has done. And I don't know if he can sustain it.
Right.
He hasn't in the past. I hope he does, because I got nothing against him, but I just don't know if Dalton Schultz will sustain what he's done. So that's a big reason. And of course they're running the football the way they are, but Dalton Schultz is a big reason why maybe his targets have gone down, because I think Dalton Schultz had about 8 targets last game, if I'm not mistaken.
He's had 8 targets the past 2 games and 7 before that one in week 3. No, I think you're completely right. With the emergence of him, that's taken away from somebody like CeeDee Lamb. Plus, this is a wide receiver some stud wide receivers on this team. And that's what we all gravitated towards when drafting. We didn't really draft Dalton Schultz or Blake Jarwin early in our fantasy drafts. So, I mean, it's just, something's got to give. So, I mean, I think you're exactly right. I think Dalton Schultz is probably going to be the one who's going to have to, drastically move backwards in order for somebody like CeeDee Lamb to move forwards out of the, low end wide receiver 2 spectrum.
And they had to use their tight ends because they lost Michael Gallup. So, I mean, they got Cedric Wilson, who
he hasn't been targeted much. He's okay, but he hasn't been targeted much. I thought he would have been, but he hasn't been.
So they had to involve their tight ends more because, like I said, they lost Gallup and like you just said, they haven't involved Cedric Wilson. So there was a necessary need to get your tight ends more involved, and both can play. Jarwin's not bad. He's not Schultz right now, but he's not terrible. So there's a lot more to it than why his targets may have gone down.
Right. And right now, CeeDee Lamb is the most targeted wide receiver in the club. Plus you have, I think Amari is at 36 right now. So he's slightly leading in targets for the whole team. But
and leads the team in yards.
Yep. Absolutely. And since wide receiver is such a it's a huge commodity for this position, we decided to put 2 primary guys we think that could edge out some of these guys in the top 12. And we also added Deonte Johnson. I mean, it's hard not to when Big Ben always supplies, if not 2, at least 1 wide receiver who's definitely going to be able to stand out. And to me, I'm a huge Deonte Johnson fan. When he's on the field, he is targeted. Last year drops were a big thing, but I think he's escalated and learned on that. And 3 of his 4 games that he played last week was not too great. 2 targets. I mean, he did great for 72 yards and a touchdown on catching both of those. But the other 3 games targeted 10 times, 12 times, 13 times. This is a wide receiver who's a great possession wide receiver, and it shows that his yards after the catch as well. So
and I think last year he had 144 targets, if I'm not mistaken. So he's averaging 9 targets. He's averaging 9 targets once again this year. So he's on pace to get 144 targets, maybe even more once again. And like you said, 10, 12, 13. He is there. Yeah, he is the guy that Big Ben goes to. I couldn't agree more. I wasn't big on the fact that he had a lot of drops, and I saw that personally last year when he played Buffalo, and he had a couple of drops that cost him a first down. But this year, I think their connection is a little better. He's got 305 yards in the first 4 games. And not only that, like I said, compared to last year where it was 88 catches, 144 targets, I'm starting to become a believer. I know, you've been a big fan since last year, but I'm starting to become a believer of Deonte Johnson as well. I agree with you. I think, and not only that, I'm becoming a fan of Claypool. Of course, I've been a fan because he went to Notre Dame. Maybe I'm a little biased, but no, I'm starting to become a fan of both. And how about this weekend? They got Seattle. That's another juicy matchup because Seattle's defense, everybody raves about Jamal Adams, and he's a great player. But he's a great player in the box. He's another, in my opinion, he's another linebacker. He's not a guy that's going to cover your best wide receiver or your best tight end. Like, he's not going to – I don't think he can go out there and cover Kelsey every time. I just don't think so. But if you need him to help stop the run with Derrick Henry or Fournette or Chubb, he can help out that in that regard. So I think they got a great matchup this week against Seattle. And
No, I think that's great. I mean, Seattle's secondary has been very bad as of late.
Yep.
But I think that's something that they can reap the rewards on for sure.
They're better against the run.
Mm-hmm. And we have a healthy Big Ben too. So I mean, that's definitely going to be something that definitely pans out.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say on Deonte Johnson? I do like Claypool too, but I don't think he's going to be as consistent at times. I always like consistency in my wide receivers.
Right. And he doesn't get as much separation as Deonte Johnson does. I will say that. Mm-hmm. Deonte Johnson gets a lot more separation than Claypool. But yeah, no, I think this is a great weekend where one, if not both of them, and it's on Sunday night, so y'all can watch it, but one, if not both of them, could have a great game. They both, last week, like you said, Deonte Johnson, not that many targets, but made the opportunity of it. And Claypool had a great game last week, 6 catches, 130 yards, and a touchdown. I think, like I said, one, if not both, could have a great matchup Sunday. But yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's go to our. I like finding a dark horse. It's fun,
yep. Mm-hmm.
Kind of possibly see the trend and see it. I mean, it's few far and in between. Can this person sustain value? Can they also bring a different whole new spectrum to this top 12? And I think what we saw this past week, I mean, you're the one who pretty much pointed it out, and I'm in agreement with you. And I think our dark horse for wide receiver is going to be Michael Pittman.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's got 368 yards receiving. And let's face it, I mean, what else do they have as far as catching the football goes? I mean, honestly, like the next guy I think is Zach Pascal, and he's got 204 yards. So you're talking about a 164-yard difference. I mean, but I mean, you look. I mean, it's not bad as far as targets. He's got 43 targets, which is I mean, it's not 50 like against DJ Moore, but like I said, first game was bad but 12 against the Rams. He had 8 catches, 123 yards. 12 against Tennessee, although only 6 catches, but for 68 yards. But then the last 2 weeks have been less, but he's made the most of it. 8 targets, 6 catches, 59 yards. And then last week, 7 targets, 6 catches, 89 yards, and a touchdown. But again, I go back to 368 yards, 43 targets, and the fact of that they just don't have anybody. Like everybody was hoping for Paris Campbell to be that guy, and they've been hoping for the past 3 years, and he hasn't. I'm looking at it, 16 targets the first 5 games for 111 yards. So he's been outplayed by Zach Pascal. T.Y.'s been hurt, although is saying now that he might make his debut this weekend. But again, T.Y. is 31, 32. I mean, it is. I got nothing against T.Y. Hilton, but I think his time. I think his time is coming to an end.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, neck issues are not great, man. I mean, that's in this game, in this sport. So I mean, I think we're going to see something to where he might be a small snap count, and it might just be a decoy at times. So I mean, this could definitely reap the benefits for Pittman as well. And we're seeing, like you said, we're seeing a lot out of Carson Wentz, man. So I mean, it's good for this team, and I'm interested to see them play against Houston and how big of a game Michael Pittman can have. To tell you the truth, I was not a fan of him coming out of college. And,
no, I wasn't either.
And I'm starting to believe that he could be an X factor number 1 wide receiver for a team. So
and what's funny, I forgot all about this. But remember, Carson Wentz was number 11 for the Eagles, right?
Mm-hmm.
Guess who's number 11 for the Colts?
Oh shit,
Michael Pittman. Michael Pittman.
2 sticks for 2 sticks.
What's that?
Number 11. Shane said 2 sticks or something. That's what they call it.
Oh, jersey. But Michael Pittman, there was a big fiasco. But there was a big, I wouldn't say fiasco, but there was I saw something where basically Pittman said, "Nah, I ain't giving up number 11." And now they're like best buds now. You know, Carson Wentz is wearing number 2, which might be a good thing so far. But nonetheless, I mean, if you're Carson Wentz, you got to find that number 1. You got to find that security blanket, especially when you go to a new team. You don't know who the fuck to throw to and whatnot. And Michael Pittman is being that guy. Like I said, I never thought even with T.Y. Hill, and I never thought that he had a number 2 wide receiver alongside him. And right now, I don't think they have a number 2 receiver alongside Michael Pittman, unless you count Pascal. But Pascal's more of a slot receiver, honestly.
Well, what I'm really hoping is, because I thought in the beginning, I thought for a while now that Paris Campbell, man, I wanted him to be a guy, like a legit factor. Like, I mean, his
bunch of people did.
his injuries, man, have just been so terrible. I mean, it just sucks to the fact that, like, I thought he was going to be better than Terry McLaurin, since they both came out of Ohio State. I mean, he was drafted well before Terry McLaurin.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if you can get a healthy Paris Campbell, I think that's something that we can definitely see, like, because he's going to be more underneath. It's going to be that short to intermediate, kind of like a Cooper Kupp. That's why I always thought he would have been good. He would have been good possession wide receiver. So hopefully maybe in the years to come, those two can both complement each other. But right now, Michael Pittman seems great.
I mean, I would, again, I'm a big yards guy. And, I love me some Stephon Diggs, but he's only got 6 yards less than someone like Stephon Diggs. So and I'm trying to look at oops, to the wrong thing. And I'm sure he's way behind in stats, but again, for a guy that, like you said, wasn't a big fan of him, he had a good game against us in the playoff game, but he didn't really have like that 503 yards, 40 catches last year. I mean, that's nothing to go crazy about, but I mean, he's almost there already. So, is there something else? Oh, I mean, top 20. Okay. So yeah, he's top 20 in receiving yards, but I mean, only 1 more yard than, or 1 yard less than Keenan Allen, only 6 more yards less than Diggs, has more yards receiving than we mentioned CeeDee Lamb, and has more than the likes of Claypool, Emmanuel Sanders, Robert Woods, Cooper, DeAndre Hopkins. So I don't know. I'm high on him right now because, like I said, for multiple reasons. Like I said, there's nobody else to throw to.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he checks and Nyheim Hines. I mean, Nyheim Hines is probably the next best guy, I would say, other than Pascal, if I had to really dig deep for somebody.
Well, I'm still going to dig deep on Paris Campbell. He's still my guy. I think he's electric, and like I said, yards after a catch, I think he's pretty good as well. But he's ready to go on to tight end?
Yep.
We can kind of make this a little bit of a quick one, but obviously Kelsey at number 1, Mark Andrews number 2, Dawson Knox, your guy. This is a Bills podcast, so we might as well talk a little bit about Dawson Knox.
Yeah, I've been surprised. I've been very, very surprised.
Well, I'm gonna cut you off real quick.
Go ahead.
Because I thought Dawson Knox, he was struggling a little bit last year, correct?
He's struggled the past 2 years.
Mm-hmm. And then I saw they brought in Jacob Hollister from Seattle, which Hollister had good games. And I was like, Hollister's gonna take the lead role in this. I mean, obviously he's a little bit older. I think he's 27. Hollister is.
Yep.
I was like, I'm going to pick him up. I'm going to scoop him up. Obviously, I did it in Chupa, where a tight end is abysmal, and my team is abysmal for tight end. So I got 5 D tight ends, D plus tight ends or something. But ever since after game 1 against Pittsburgh, with just about 6 fantasy points, after Miami, 11, Washington, 12, 18 in Houston, Kansas City. He just keeps trending up, man. He's looking great. And now he's literally a reliable tight end one play every week.
I always said in the first 2 years, inside the 20s, he's a beast. He's one of their best red zone targets. But in between the 20s, not impressed. And in fact, he only had 3 catches last week. So let's be mindful of that. But all 3 catches, all within between the 20s and all downfield.
Yeah.
He got behind everybody on the touchdown catch, which I was shocked. And maybe KC's defense is that bad. I don't know. But he got behind everybody, and Josh just flinged it about 40 yards downfield. Then there was another one where he caught the ball over the dude. Might have been a little bit of a push off, but I'm not going to say nothing.
Who's talking?
Yeah.
Who's saying?
I don't care. We usually get the calls don't get the calls for us, but all 3 catches last week were downfield. And then the first time against Houston where I had seen him catch a touchdown pass, not in the 20. So yeah, everybody was a fan of him, like my stepdad. I think Shane was a big fan. And I just wasn't. I didn't think he got separation. And he usually has a drop. He had a bunch of drops last year. This year, hold on, knock on wood, he's been good. Supposedly,
is that fake wood?
Yeah, it's probably fake wood. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it probably is. Supposedly he saw an eye specialist. So I mean, he went out and did what he had to do to fix the drops issues. Maybe he thought it was an eye issue. So he's put in the work and he's reaping the benefits. I would dare say that he's probably the number 3 target. He's number 3 option. He's had more snaps in the last 2 weeks than Cole Beasley.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think as he should. Shouldn't he always, being the tight end of the team?
Being the tight end. But you got to remember.
Like 96%.
But you got to remember, Buffalo last year and the first part of this year was going to a lot of 10 personnel or 4 wide receiver sets, no tight ends. So they'd line up with 4 wide receivers with a running back and no tight ends. Now they're starting to – and he's become a better blocker too. That was another problem I had. He was not that great of a blocker. He's become a better blocker. I said in our group text, like I said to Morgan, I said, I agree. He's proven me wrong.
So I want to put this to you.
Yep.
2020, they went to the AFC Championship. Where did they land in 2019? How far?
Wild card.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm starting to believe with the Buffalo Bills that they're trying to transition into getting everybody involved instead of just say Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen for the most part. Because if you look why did they lose to Kansas City? It could be a lot of factors, but I mean, I'm just saying, like, are they starting to think we have to get everybody involved? That way the defenses do not figure us out and feel like we have to just, I mean, I love Stephon Diggs, but seeing him almost at top 30 right now in wide receiver position for fantasy.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that they're trying to go elsewhere to get everybody involved and to confuse defenses. Because, I mean, you got Emmanuel Sanders who's in there too, and Cole Beasley has taken a huge step back as well. I mean, you can see in the snap share as well.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I mean, plus the run game has gotten a little bit better. I mean, it's not incredible. I mean, because Josh Allen still takes the reins on that, but
absolutely,
seeing both Singletary and Moss, when they do touch the ball, they get significant yardage.
Yeah.
Out of the
well, let me say this. I didn't want to believe it, but I think Emmanuel Sanders is a better option than John Brown was last year.
I can agree with that.
Now, the year before, I would have said John Brown. For those that don't know, John Brown the first year, 2019, John Brown and Cole Beasley came to them. John Brown had 1,000 yards. He was not hurt. Last year, he was hurt for – I'd have to go back, but he was hurt for a few games. He might have even been banged up going into the AFC Championship game, but they just could not get separation on the Chiefs. And to be honest, Chiefs corners are known to play press coverage or are known to play in your face coverage. That being said, I will say that the Chiefs were without their best corner last week, Charvarius Ward. But yeah, I mean, I think it's always been the key to get everybody involved, but I think Dawson Knox has just become a better player. You know what I'm saying?
Totally agree to that.
I believe that. I didn't like I said, wasn't a believer. I didn't think he got separation. I thought he dropped the ball. I didn't think he was a good blocker. I mean, he still can be better. I mean, he's far from being just a finished product, but
yeah,
he's proven me wrong, and he proved Morgan wrong. Morgan said the same thing. He proved Morgan wrong, and
proven us all wrong.
Like I said, he's their third option. He's behind Emmanuel Sanders and Stephon right now.
Yeah. Well, as much as I would like to keep going on him for, and 20 minutes to each position or each Bills position. I love you, man. Let's go on and move on to Dalton Schultz at number 4. We can be really quick with him too, but he surprised us all. We thought maybe with Blake Jarwin, although he was out most of the season last year, we thought maybe there would have been a timeshare or Blake Jarwin would have eventually taken the number 1 role. But it looks like Dalton Schultz, man, has escalated into this top 5 realm. And I mean, it's a great passing offense. I had Dalton Schultz on a few teams last year.
Yeah.
Ended up letting him go because I just thought Blake Jarwin, well, this is dynasty. Jarwin would have done something, but it's complete opposite. And Schultz is reaping the benefits of this.
Mm-hmm.
Which, like you said, it took away from CeeDee Lamb in a way. And Amari Cooper obviously is, he's kind of scaled back just a little bit. Both are like top 20 wide receivers in CeeDee and Amari, but the emergence of Dalton Schultz is huge. Third on the team at wide receiver or in targets. Sorry. Go ahead.
And I was going to say, I mean, 31 targets, 26 catches. So I mean, the connection is, and he's 5th in receiving yards, obviously behind Andrews, Kelsey, Waller, and Pitts. I mean, that's not a bad group to be behind. And like you said, especially like we all thought Blake Jarwin would be the guy, but yeah, man, he's got 3 touchdown catches so far. So I mean, he's he's balling out. Like I said, my biggest thing with Schultz is he gonna sustain this?
Right. Exactly.
I don't know. Again, I think eventually Gallup will come back. Excuse me, damn.
I'm rubbing off on you, man. I've been coughing.
Yeah, I know, right? That's my biggest thing with him. I mean, I like Dalton Schultz. I got nothing against him, but I don't know if he can sustain it with Gallup coming back, and I don't know if he can sustain it. That's my only question. Otherwise, right. I'm a fan.
Yeah, I mean, he's averaging about right now 6 targets a game. Let me go back and see. Yeah, he's averaging 6 yards a game, but within these past 3 games, he's been averaging about 8. So, I mean, that's definitely something you want out of your tight end for sure. I mean, you're averaging that amount of targets per game, I mean, that's definitely good for you, and you can expect tight end 1 numbers. Onward to Darren Waller at number 5. We already talked about him a little bit when we were talking about Derek Carr, but like he did scale back. We thought it'd been maybe a tight end 2 in front of Kittle for sure, but it seems like Waller has definitely taken a step back, especially I think with like we said, the wide receivers getting involved more. And we did see, what was it? I think his targets were phenomenally insane all throughout last year compared to this year. And then number 6, we got Gronk, who is going to be out this week, but I still think he's going to be sorry.
Good.
So I think he's going to be, at least it's still a tight end 1, because I think he's going to be a top 5 tight end, even if he misses a couple games throughout the season. I think Gronkowski, just him and Brady just have that. They just have that chemistry. I mean, ever since New England to now, I mean, it's just ongoing. They know when and where to be, or Gronk does at the same time. And they also know when I remember watching that one game. It was a few weeks ago. And then Gronk did a small push on the defensive end. And he knew immediately, because the linebacker was starting to pull in too, to go to blitz. And all he did was just look back, because he knew exactly that Brady was going to look at him. And it was this nice small seam right into the end zone. So
I'm trying to remember. I don't know if that was the Cowboys game. I can't remember. I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah,
it might have been the Cowboys. But I mean, you can tell no matter who it is, no matter if it's Gronk, no matter if it's Brady or OJ Howard, Tom Brady likes going to the tight ends. And when he comes back, which he might even come back this week. I think they were hoping he'd come back this week or last night, but he might even come back this week. They got extra time. They got extra couple days, but he ain't gonna stop just because he broken ribs or something like that, fractured ribs. He's gonna go back to doing Gronk things.
Gronk does Gronk things, bro. So I mean, we got TJ Hopkinson at number 7 right now. He's been targeted 33 times. All around, we did think he would be like a top 5 at times too. I think he's questionable to play this week.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, but when he's targeted, man, he puts up numbers as well. I mean, what was it?
The first game he went off. Excuse me.
I think that was just Goff's safety blanket for that first game for sure.
Trying to look up what he did that weekend. 11 targets.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yep. Yeah, I was just gonna say 11 targets, 8 catches, 97 yards, a touchdown. Yeah, unfortunately, like the Baltimore game and the Minnesota game, 2 targets, 3 targets. But I mean, Green Bay game, he had 9 targets, 8 catches, 86 yards, and a touchdown. So I mean, fortunately, it's come down. It's come down a lot. But I still think he'll end up in the top 12. I mean, there's no question about it. He'll end up probably top 10. But I mean, the production's gone down. But like you said, that's Goff's security blanket. It hasn't changed.
Yeah, well, from going down, let's go to somebody who's starting to trend up, and that's Kyle Pitts at number 8. 10 targets last week against the Jets, caught 9 of them for 119 yards and a touchdown. So if you played him and didn't, pull somebody from the bench to replace him this past week, you reap the benefits, because he was putting up he wasn't putting up numbers you expected for drafting somebody in the 4th round, basically 5th round. So I think Pitts, he's on his way up. I think the team knows he needs to be targeted. I don't know how much longer Calvin Ridley will be out, but with this bye week, I think this is something that could give the team a little bit of a spark and to get ready to play Miami. And maybe we could see the wheels keep on churning for this boy going into week 7.
Oh yeah, as long as Gage and as long as Ridley's out, he's the number 1 target. Let's face it.
Mm-hmm.
He's that hybrid. He's that guy that can play. I mean, he's basically a wide receiver playing tight end.
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Totally agree.
He's gonna be the real deal. I always gotta see it first. You know, people talk about it. That's great. I think he's gonna be the real deal.
Well, it's like a new shiny car. I mean, like it's like the new phone. You know, it's like, do I want to get the new iPhone 12, 13?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I want to get it. Or you could just be like, oh, I'll just wait to see if there's any bugs in it, see what the kinks are like before I get it. And then I totally agree with you. I'm kind of more conservative route. Like, do I want to draft early to grab him and just hopefully reap the benefits? Or do I want to sit back and wait? So if you were capable of seeing something where Kyle Pitts was, you know, not progressing like most would have thought, and you traded for him, I think now you're starting to see that Atlanta is starting to use him the right way. And I think this is going to be beneficial.
And like you said, juicy matchup coming off the bye against Miami.
Yep.
They're struggling. All phases they're struggling. And I again, there's another Bills mention, but I listen if anybody's surprised, I listen to a bunch of Bills stuff. And like one of the reporters says, Miami plays man to man almost the entire time. And unless they're putting Jerome Baker on Kyle Pitts, none of their safeties can cover Pitts, and none of their other linebackers can cover Pitts. And it's not like they're going to put Xavier Howard or Byron Jones on Pitts. So Pitts could duplicate what he did last week, might even do better.
Good.
Like I said, unless they're gonna put Jerome Baker on him, which Jerome Baker's a halfway decent coverage, but he's a really good player. But I could see Kyle Pitts just going bonkers on Miami. So
and Calvin really, I don't know how much longer he's gonna be absent. I think it might have just been that game. So to have both on the field would help out Pitts probably a little bit more, so that Miami doesn't game plan and like maybe double coverage in him as well.
Yeah.
So that could be good.
Okay. Yeah, they play a lot of man to man. So
we'll move on to Hunter Henry, who's actually starting to escalate. Sorry, y'all. In his own right. And it's something that, I mean, when we seen New England in the beginning of the season, we were hoping they were going to do that double tight end like they did about 10 years ago. And right now, Jonnu is kind of taking a back seat, whereas Hunter Henry is kind of starting to reap the rewards. And he's starting to be, you know, a pretty good target for Mac Jones and all. Yeah. So far so good. I mean, the last game, 6 of 8, caught 6 of 8 targets, 75 yards and a touchdown. I mean, Hunter Henry, man, I think this is the kind of late round tight end that I would always scoop up. I would always scoop up somebody like him. I would always scoop up maybe another one that I think would be a dark horse and just see if they can, you know, hit that top 12. And to me, if they don't, there's always a capability to stream somebody. And like, I mean, say if you went that route, then you picked up Dalton Schultz, you picked up Dawson Knox. There were guys who probably weren't even drafted at the time. So
I've always been a fan of Hunter Henry. I've always thought he's been a good route runner. But unfortunately, the best ability is the availability,
right?
And that's been his problem, because I think you would agree, when he's healthy, he can be a top 5 tight end, especially with a great quarterback. Like if he was still with Herbert, I mean, he'd be top 5. I mean, I think Mac Jones has been the best rookie so far, but that's not really saying much. But but I've always been a fan of Hunter Henry. It's just whether or not he can stay healthy. And as athletic as Jonnu Smith is, I don't know. I've always been high on more of Hunter Henry. I've always thought he was a better route runner. I always thought Jonnu Smith was it was a good red zone target. Between the 20s, he was okay, but I always thought Hunter Henry was a better route runner, just as good of a red zone target.
I think he's a better possession tight end for sure.
Yeah. So, man, I mean, if Mac Jones can Matt Jones can keep getting better and better, him and Hunter Henry, they could have something going on for the next few years. Because Hunter Henry's he's not old. He's 25, 26 years old, I think. So
26, yeah.
26. So, I mean.
I think it was a 2-year contract he's on. Is it right? 2 or 3 year.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. John might have the bigger contract. I can't remember. But, yeah, I mean, Hunter Henry could be – let's see the list. I think Schultz is going to go down. I want Dawson Knox to be a top 5, but I could see Dawson Knox going down. I mean, I could see Hunter Henry, if he could stay healthy and have the game like he did last year, I could see him being a top 5 at the most.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on. We got Mike Gesicki at number 10, who we do see Tua Tagovailoa, and he's going to come in and come back to start this week, going into week 6, which is interesting. That's really good for him, Waddle. Who I think, I really hope Preston Williams is playing. Like I just love watching him play. And plus they're going against Jacksonville, so that's gonna be, big things for them. So Noah Fant, number 11. We can still see that him and Teddy Bridgewater are still having a good rapport, and Dallas Goedert too.
Yeah,
it was on number 12. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
He's on COVID. You think he'll come back? He'll probably come back next week, won't he?
Yep. Yeah, because he's on COVID, and you got Zach Ertz, who's Zach Ertz was pretty much traded to Cardinals. I mean, it was a long time coming, but at the same time, it's kind of like it's a little bit of a dagger to your heart.
I was going to ask.
Yeah, it was a big play for him in the Super Bowl, especially that one that hit the ground when he tried to dive for the touchdown in the end zone against New England, and that was like a huge play. It's just it's surreal, man. But I wish him well. He's on a winning team right now, and I think it'll be really fun to watch him. They need a good tight end, and the way they're feeding Max Williams, I think Zach Ertz will eat. So that's going to be big for Kyler Murray as well. So, going on, we got Goddard. I think that makes him probably like a top 5 tight end if he gets targeted well enough. I think he can push to be into that for sure.
I've always been a fan of him. I've been a fan of Ertz, but I've always been a fan of Goddard. And you had to know that it was going to be Hurts from a standpoint of he's older. If you're rebuilding or you're building a team, you'd probably trade the older guy. But I've always been a fan of Goddard, though. I think he's a good player.
Yep, I agree. So, okay, so let's move on. So the primary tight end that let's kind of finish this up real quick. The primary tight end we're pretty much looking at that can pretty much go into this top 12 is the one and only Tyler Higbee, who is in a legit offense with Matt Stafford. We did see the fact that he hasn't been targeted too well, but being on this offense, I think it's gonna push him and escalate him, because the competition behind him at tight end on that team is nothing that's gonna break his snap share, break any of the incoming targets. This team is only going to get better with Matt Stafford.
Yeah. No, yeah. If he can he had 734 yards with Goff 2 years ago. There's no question that he could do that again. There's no question about it. I know they got Kupp and I know they got Robert Woods, but there's no question he could get 700 yards. And he was a top 10 that year. He was 9 and 8. I think he was a top 10 tight end. So I could see him being a top tight end, especially, there's some guys on the list that could drop. Gesky can be a little too inconsistent at times. Like the first game, Gesky had no catches, no targets, like nothing. I think Hurts will eat, but you don't know if that will be a connection. But I think he will, but you don't know that for certain. Fant with Denver, I like Noah Fant, but Bridgewater, you never know which Bridgewater is going to come out. But I think Tyler Higbee can duplicate what he did with Goff, because Stafford's a way better quarterback. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I agree to that. I mean, you can't go wrong with that. I mean, the team's going in the right direction. They obviously like the fact that they brought Stafford in, and I mean, everything's benefiting. You've seen Cup, you see Robert Woods, like you said, just Higbee too. Just this whole team. I think it's going to be a Super Bowl run for this team in some form or fashion. But I think Higbee should be able to at least reap some benefits out of this too. Like some shares should be going to him. Absolutely. Let's go with the dark horse in Dan Arnold from Carolina.
I like some Dan Arnold.
Go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say
I just said it wrong. He's not in Carolina. He's with Jacksonville.
Yeah, but no, I remember getting him in Chuba. Nobody picked him up, and I'm like, and like you said, the list of tight ends in our league is very minuscule. Excuse me, and I didn't realize last year, like, he had 438 yards. I'm like, all right, that's not bad for Arizona tight end, considering Cardinals have never really had a good tight end that I can think of. So yeah, I was a fan of him with Arizona, and then when he got the opportunity to go to Carolina, I said, oh shoot, he could be the guy. But he gets traded to Jacksonville, and first two games have been. The first game with Cincinnati, he didn't get many targets, but I think last week did he get 8 targets? I think.
Mm-hmm.
And let's be honest, there's, they lost Chark. So I mean, there's a lot of opportunity for Arnold to I just want to make sure. Yeah, 8 targets, 6 catches, 64 yards. Now a lot of that had to do with maybe they were playing from behind, but there's not many options other than Marvin Jones and Chenault and I guess the occasional Jamal Agnew, but he's more of a kick returner, punt returner, and there's just not much to throw to for Trevor Lawrence, which is a worst nightmare for a rookie quarterback, is not having anybody to throw to.
Right.
So usually in that case, your tight end is your best friend, Yeah. So, and I don't think they're taking Jacob Hollister that seriously. I think they just signed him just to sign him.
Right. But and like I thought too, as somebody who probably could have taken the reins, but obviously they weren't satisfied with that. And bringing in somebody like Dan Arnold, who's a great pass catcher. You've seen it in Arizona with the Cardinals. Didn't get a whole lot of attempts or whatnot, but I mean, you've seen a little bit of spurts here with Carolina and now in Jacksonville. I mean, it could be a great asset for Trevor Lawrence too, especially the fact that Trevor Lawrence isn't used to losing, man. So he's gonna have to find somebody he can be comfortable with, and Dan Arnold, he can get open, so that can be definitely good for him.
It's gonna either be checking down to James Robinson or. Yeah, like you said, basically, again, also checking down to Dan Arnold, which, again, obviously they had a good report last week. So it's there. Like I said, there's, not to keep repeating myself, but there's nothing else there to throw to.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
I always thought Chenault was more of a gadget player, in my opinion. And Marvin Jones, I'm always waiting for Marvin Jones to kind of come down back to earth, but obviously I think he's their number one. But I don't know. I'm always waiting for Marvin Jones to come back down to earth. So
yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, because just Chenault, I feel like is the biggest asset for the wide receiver position for sure. So it's going to be fun to see, how much Dan Arnold can be involved in this. We did see quite a bit in that second game. We knew we were going to pretty much just see, just him be just eased into the offense. But I think within that second game, we started to see that he's going to be a reliable target for sure. But,
and again, they're playing, like I said about Kyle Pitts, not to compare Dan Arnold to Kyle Pitts. Let me just make that very clear.
Mm-hmm.
But they're playing Miami this weekend. Again, this could be a big opportunity. This could be a big game for someone like Dan Arnold, or even because they're going to cover. They're going to cover Marvin Jones. They're going to cover Chenault because Byron Jones and Xavier. Oh no, wait, I'm sorry. Xavier Howard's out for the game, so scratch that. You might have to edit that part out, but Byron Jones is going to cover one of the two receivers. So I mean, this could be a big game for that other receiver not being covered by Byron Jones, and it could be a big game for Dan Arnold. Either way, so
yeah. Well, cool, man. That's it. Like, we definitely went through this pretty damn well. We covered it. I mean, this is going to fluctuate for the most part with this each position for sure within the top 12. But we'll see it with this week. Hey, enjoy it out there in Washington. Who are you going to cheer for? You just going to wear your Bills attire?
Yeah, I will. My buddy, this guy I go to the games with, he told me, he's like, look, bro, you gotta wear your team no matter what. Mm-hmm. I was like, all right, fine, whatever, I'll do it. So when we went to Washington Giants game, wore my Bills shirt, and sure enough, you had some Washington fan go, "That's next week. We play on next week. What are you doing wearing that?"
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, buddy. Careful what you wish for.
Exactly. Well, that's it. Be sure to follow us at thefloog.com. You can follow us at thefloog_FF. You can follow me at Gars_Poetica. You can find Tyson now with his Twitter feed at 757 Bills Mafia. And once again, y'all, good luck on your fantasy squads this weekend, and we'll catch you next week.
Go Bills.